Hey, it's Ness. So basically, I've not done a book haul in such a long time, and for some reason October is the month where I seem to buy like so many books, because as we're coming into autumn, all I want to do is read. Like, you can't go outside, it's English weather, and there's not much you can do in the UK. Two things happened this month. So the first thing was that I spent a lot of this month ill with the flu, and then after the flu I just didn't really feel myself. I felt quite down. You could probably tell from my last video, which I think has been a break of about 3 weeks that I've had, which I didn't intend to have. The flu just hit me super hard. But because of that, I spent a lot of time in bed feeling sorry for myself. So what I did was, in the job that I have, I transferred branch, and my old manager kindly did like a collect around, and I got £20 for leaving. So what I did was, I thought I'd treat myself using that £20, and I went to Goodreads, and I basically went on my to read list and looked at all of the books that I wanted to read like a few years ago that I've never got around to buying, and then I went on Amazon and thought I would buy some used. So with that £20 I actually got I got 8 books off Amazon for £20, and I got them all in used condition. However, only 2 of them are actually like looking used. The rest have come basically brand new. The spines haven't been broken. So I'm really impressed with what I bought on Amazon this month. I mean, you're paying like a penny for a book, and then you're just paying postage, and they're supposed to be, you know, used. Someone's like just read them, doesn't want them anymore, and has given them away. However, 6 of these books have come in pristine condition, like you would have just bought them straight off the shelf at Waterstones. So some of these books were quite popular when I started Booktube about 2 or 3 years ago. So you've probably read these books or heard about these books. These books will have been like died to death by now, but I haven't read them, so I thought because they're so cheap, I'd read them, and at least I could join in the discussion saying that I did eventually read that book. I'm aware that a few of these might have become like a cringy read, sort of like Twilight was really popular, but now looking back at it, it was actually quite rubbish. So I feel like at least one of these is kind of like that. But also I have a lot of space books, which I'm obsessed with space. If you know me at all, I love books to do with space. I'm hoping to do more of like a spacey theme on this channel. So we'll get into that in a bit. And the second thing that happened this month was that if you've seen my library bar tour video, that is my grandma's sort of like reading room, and she had hundreds of books in there. Well, we had a clear out with that, and she got rid of hundreds of books. We literally had like a book burning day. I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but we got a trolley, and then we put it at the bottom of the garden, and then we just made a fire in it and just chucked loads of books on it. And it's kind of like sacrilegious in a way, but they were beyond damaged that anybody else would want them. They were very old books that nobody would want to read now. However, I did manage to save 12 books that I decided to keep for myself. Pretty interesting. I wouldn't have bought these in a shop, but now that I have started reading them, I'm so happy that I saved them from the book burning, because they're pretty good. So no more rambling, I'm just going to tell you what I got. So the first book that I got is Rebel of the Sands, and I purely bought this on the recommendation of my best friend Rebecca, who's at Rebecca Reads. I don't know anything about it, but when I went to her house, she just kept banging on about how I had to read it, and I managed to get this on Amazon pretty cheap. So I'm going to give this a try. I'm not sure if this is part of a series or not. I think it might be. The back doesn't give much away, to be honest. I don't usually buy books on the recommendations of other people, but she did seem to rave about this a lot. And I mean, this was in used condition on Amazon, but the spine is perfectly fine. It's basically as if you'd pick this up in a bookshop. So, very pleased. The second used book is Heartless by Marissa Meyer, which I got on Amazon. Again, this is like, hasn't even been opened. I bought this book because I'd marked it to read on Goodreads, because I really liked Cinder and Scarlet, and I finished the whole Lunar Chronicles trilogy. Rebecca has just included this in her wrap-up, where she said she also read this on the back of liking the Lunar Chronicles, but she didn't like it as much. She said it's not as sort of different as a retelling as what Cinder was, with Cinder being like a cyborg sort of thing. Rebecca said she rated this 2 to 3 stars on Goodreads, so I'm a little bit sort of hesitant to get around to this, but I'm just going to keep an open mind when I go into this and not let sort of the opinions of others influence me. But just from looking at it, it doesn't seem as detailed, it doesn't seem as long as what Cinder did, so we'll see. Hopefully, Marissa Meyer, you do not let me down, because the Lunar Chronicles is still one of my favourite YA series. So the next book was all the rage when I started Booktube, and I feel like this is the one that's sort of gone into like cringe. So it is The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer by Michelle Hodkins. I've never read a Michelle Hodkins book, but I do know of this author's name because this book was so popular, it made the author quite popular here as well. I don't feel like I need to tell you what this book is about, because every Booktube channel, if you go on, will probably have reviewed this book already. I'm literally just reading it to see what the hype was about a long time ago. It probably hasn't aged well. You'll have to let me know if this book has aged well or not, but I mean, it's a beautiful cover. I really like the cover. This is a trilogy and it has been completed, so we'll see how this goes, but I feel like I'm kind of at 24. I feel like this may be a little bit old for me. Sorry, this may be a little young for me. I am too old for this book. So we'll just see how this goes. But like I said, it was super cheap on Amazon, and I'm guessing curiosity got the better of me with this one. The next book has come in the condition that I expected a used book on Amazon to come in. However, it's still in perfectly readable condition. The only difference is that for some reason it's been sellotaped around the corners. I'm guessing this was the preference of the last reader, because there's no actual damage on the cover at all. I have no idea why they would have done this, but for some reason it's been sellotaped. It's called The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. I am totally into space right now, so hopefully this will fill a gap that I'm having in my space reads, because there's not a lot of space fiction and I really wish that more would come out. But I guess it's quite hard to make an individual and different space novel. To me, YA space fiction does tend to follow a similar storyline to another one, if that makes sense. This one is about a girl called Rosemary who joins the crew of a ship called the Wayfarer, which has seen better days. And on the ship, the crew is made up of different species and personalities, and the pilot is reptilian. So I feel like I've been watching too many Candle Ray videos, because suddenly I'm thinking of like the government and stuff. But basically it's about going on adventures in the galaxy. So I'm going to read this soon. I'm pretty excited. I realised when I was going through Goodreads and looking at books that I wanted to buy that I didn't have a contemporary novel that I'd picked up yet. So I got 10 Tiny Breaths by K.A. Tucker. This one I'd seen mentioned in a YouTube video and it sounded pretty interesting, so I thought that I'd buy it, even though I'm not really into contemporaries that much. But it's about a girl who becomes an orphan and she looks after her sister, and they basically have no money. They have no money, they don't really have anything, and they move into an apartment, and that's when a love interest comes in. This is part of a series, so I'm wondering how this will read. Hopefully my first K.A. Tucker book will be enjoyable. This book is an American edition because I don't think that these are published in the UK, so I'm pretty happy that I managed to find this on Amazon being sold in the UK used. And I do have a comment to make about US books versus UK books in a minute. You'll see why. So my next book I'd been planning on buying for a long time, it has come in brand new condition again. I'm so pleased with this. This is This Shattered World. This is the second book to These Broken Stars. Okay, it doesn't actually say anywhere on here that it's part of a series, which is quite bad, I guess, if you're just looking in a shop. But this is the second book to These Broken Stars, which I read about a year and a half ago. I did a review for it and I really enjoyed it, even though when I read the summary on the back and it was sort of described as like a Titanic in space, I was like, what is this crap? But I really enjoyed it and I've been meaning to pick up this for a long time, and I got this super cheap on Amazon. I'm really happy. Again, this is an American edition because I'm struggling to find this in UK stores, which is the reason I haven't picked it up yet. These Broken Stars is about a girl and a boy, and they're on a spaceship. There's kind of like a mechanical fault and they end up abandoning the ship, and them two together end up on this planet which is being treated so that it could harbour human life, if that makes sense. So the environment is being created and there's plants growing in it, and they discover some shady secrets about her dad. This does not have the same characters in it as the first book. Like, they are probably in it, but they're not the main characters, so they've changed from their focus to other characters' focuses, which is what happened with Illumini, that series as well. So I really enjoyed it that they switched the characters up, because it meant that it wasn't so repetitive. So we'll see how this goes. Another book I've wanted for a long time but I've never seen published in the UK is Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe. Sorry, this is quite a shiny cover. Despite being a 5-year-old book, this is still getting really good reviews on Goodreads. This is currently over 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, and that's always a sign of a good book. So I'm hoping that other book reviewers have done this a good job and that I haven't just bought this and been so hyped up for it for years that I will now be disappointed by it, because it's totally rubbish when that happens, when everyone else has hyped a book up and you buy it and you read it and you're like, what the hell is this? But it's a book about friendship, so I'm very excited to read something like that. And the last book that I bought, because I felt like I needed some variation, was a non-fiction book, but keeping with the space theme because I am obsessed. It's Moondust by Andrew Smith, and it is about the real life journey of astronauts that come back to Earth and their struggles to overcome fitting back in, comparing the experiences they've had living in space to coming back and living sort of an average life on Earth. So it's about the astronauts that took place in the Apollo moon program and their experiences of being on the moon and now being back on Earth, basically. A lot of people see astronauts as heroes, but to themselves I imagine that they deal with a lot of personal problems, doing something so amazing and basically out of this world for them to come back to living an average lifestyle and shopping in the supermarket, that kind of thing. So I'm interested to see from their point of view how they perceive themselves. So this is the point that I wanted to make about UK books versus US books. I don't understand this at all. But these are the UK published books that I bought. As you can see, they're all the same height. And these are the US published books that I bought, as you can see, all the same height. However, what is this? Why are US books taller than UK published books? Like, this is just an annoyance to someone who likes to have uniform bookshelves. I guess I kind of like the American books better. I would prefer them to be thin and tall rather than small and fat kind of thing. I guess you would get more books on your bookshelf that way, but I just don't understand why. Okay, so that was all the books that I purchased of my own accord. Next are books that I have been given by my grandma / saved from the book burning day that we had. And speaking of non-uniformed books, this is a series, okay? But it doesn't look like a series. So this is the Lucky Santangelo series by Jackie Collins. As you can see, you would not think that this was a series. There's nothing uniform about these books at all. However, my grandma did buy them as they came out. So the top one is an early 80s copy and it goes right down to here, which was I think 2011-ish. Books are changing with the times, obviously. But if I saw this in a shop, I would not think that this was the same series at all. So I'll just give you a quick rundown of the first one called Chances. I have read this, it was fantastic. And it is about a Italian-American crime family and how they make their way from the bottom to the top of the crime world. Lucky is the daughter of Gino, who is this big man, sort of hard gangster who has his hand in a lot of dodgy dealings, and he makes his millions and billions. So Lucky takes over her father's business. Only 90% of this book is actually about Lucky. The rest of it is from the perspective of Gino and his life from nothing to everything. But the rest, it sort of sets up the rest of the series to be about Lucky and how she takes over the crime business. So I really like the character of Lucky. I really enjoyed this, and I'll speak more about this in my wrap-up. The next series that I saved was the Flowers in the Attic series by Virginia Andrews. I have read Flowers in the Attic now, and I've read the second one, which I will talk about. If you don't know what Flowers in the Attic is, where you've been living, but it's about 4 siblings that get locked up by their grandmother in the attic of an old house, and they spend 3 years there, and it's about their life coping with living in an attic room. This is an incredibly popular book, so I don't feel like it's a spoiler if I say it's about incest, because this book is everywhere. There was films made about it and everything. However, when you watch the film, it's totally different to reading the book, and the book was really, really good. This publication made Virginia Andrews a household name, and I can totally see why she's a brilliant author. Same with Jackie Collins as well. Like, I read Chances and I was just texting everybody like, I totally understand why Jackie Collins is like famous now. She's a celebrity in her own right as an author, and her writing is fantastic. Like, if you want to read something a little bit more challenging with more adult themes, I would definitely recommend Chances. I'm probably going to make a video just about that, to be honest, because it was so good. And the last 2 books are original editions of 1984 and Animal Farm by George Orwell. I really love George Orwell. I love his policies. I like reading about him. As a historian myself, I love to read about his life. And I also collect Penguin books, so I'm very excited to add these to my collection. I literally cried when I saw these, and my grandma wanted to take them to get valued. I was just like, no, these are mine now. So I feel like I've spent a lot of time just sort of like waffling on today, but I'm just slowly trying to get back into this from not feeling very well. So hopefully I will see you in my October wrap-up video where I talk about all the books I've been reading, and there's a lot. I've also read some free books which I want to give my opinions on. So yeah. I also hope that October has been a very successful reading month for you, and I will see you next time. Bye!